This next one, sent in on Twitter using the hashtag CornyDriveThru from P85. What? MLW.
What? Wait, what?
P85.
P85 is the name of the person.
That's right.
Okay.
MLW is having a draft, and the first pick for the company was Davey Richards. I was wondering about Jim's thoughts and experience working with him. Richards versus Black at DBDH8 would be in my top 10 matches for 35 years old. I guess in 35
Death Before
years.
Dishonor.
Okay. Well, Davey Richards returning apparently to professional wrestling. What are your thoughts on that and working with Davey?
You know, I'm excited about that. I'm hoping that he's focused on this and really wants to do it, because he was an amazing talent. The first time I saw him, 2009 in Ring of Honor, he reminded me of a little bit of Dynamite Kid, a little bit of Chris Benoit, the intensity, the fucking way that he could do some of that shit without killing himself or anybody else, quite frankly. He was training in MMA. At the same time, he was, able to do the flying shit. He wasn't completely focused on the wrestling business because he was constantly trying to decide whether he was going to leave and go be an emergency medical technician and a fireman, or whether he was going to stick with wrestling, and back and forth. And that's why I've said sometimes he would just blurt things out, like he was going to retire, or he was. One time he asked me and Delirious if it was okay if he asked his girlfriend to marry him in the ring at the Manhattan Center in New York after his match. And I said, that's probably not the time to do that. But there were things going on, right? And it would not have been a smooth transition. But the point is, he didn't end up marrying that girl anyway. So I'm glad he didn't. There was always, that's what we had to deal with, was a baby face that was constantly saying things that he would have to take back, or getting in an issue that I love Kyle O'Reilly too, and Tony Kazina, who was another one of their training partners, but they did a dine and dash on some outlaw promoter in Idaho one day when they got out there in the middle of it was Idaho or Iowa, somewhere way far away from humanity. And they're out in the middle of nowhere, and they get there for the first of a couple of shows, and the guy tells them, well, I'm changing the match, and I don't have money, and this and that. And so he says, well, what do you have? And he said, well, I got like half, and then they took it and took off. So I wake up one morning and turn on the internet, and there's Ring of Honor stars involved in Dine and Dash on promoter in Iowa. But Davey's a tremendous talent. If he's focused on this and wants to give it his all, because he's very determined and very dedicated, he would just change his mind a lot. He had a lot. It was Ric Flairish sometimes in that regard. But if he's focused on this and determined and wants to do it and still in shape, he's had a couple of years off because he was beating his body up bad. Yeah, I'm a fan of his as a wrestler. Davey Richards and Tyler Black in Toronto in the summer of 2011, was one of the best matches I've ever seen live. That's why I said, to me, I had just seen the modern day updating of Flair and Steamboat by watching Tyler Black and Davey Richards. It was a little bit faster paced, as you would expect, and they did more big stuff, but they still did it at a high level, and the people went nuts over it. And there was nothing silly, there was nothing stupid and phony. Those guys still in that era in Ring of Honor were not guys that were waiting around standing to catch guys making little fucking pissy ass pussy dives. They were fucking diving and blistering each other if they did it at all. So, I was a big fan of Davies. I'm glad to see him back. I just hope he sticks with it and stays focused on it, because he's very, very good. But that was a wonderful class of talent there at that time. Davey, Eddie Edwards, his partner, Roderick Strong, O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Jay Lethal, the Briscoes, Claudio and Hero for a bit of a time there. Add guys like Haas and Benjamin and Rhino and some of the guys that we had, Lance Storm coming in for a few shots. That was a tremendous in-ring group of guys, and Davey stood out as one of the best. And I really, it's sad when you think about it. If the timing had been different, and Sinclair Broadcasting bought Ring of Honor and put it on television and saved it from going out of business, but at the same point, they didn't hop in with, I'm not saying hop in with both feet. They didn't even really hop in with one foot. They kind of stuck a toe in compared to what I thought they were going to do financially to get the thing started, and it got off on such a wrong foot for a few years there. But if instead of a kid, the frustrated fantasy booker whose father has a bunch of money and can get him anything he wants, and he chose comedy wrestling, if somebody with the backing to really flesh out that group of guys in Ring of Honor and that level of talent that was available at that point in time in the business, with the UFC and all those guys cross-training in pro wrestling and MMA, it could have been a sports-based presentation. It could have been a legitimate sport that you weren't embarrassed to look at or you didn't laugh at when you watched it, and it could have stirred people up. And guys like Davey, they were part of that stuff because you could see them being an athlete in either sport, pro wrestling or UFC, mixed martial arts. And I think Kyle's done tremendously well with that to this day. So that's what I thought it could have been. That's what I wished it could have been. The timing wasn't right. And instead, as I've mentioned, along comes a guy after all this time to put the money in it and has the resources to do things. And we get sketch comedy because, you can have the resources, but probably the hardest job in wrestling is being able to spot and pick talent and put that talent together in a cohesive whole. And that's where poor Tony, so this is what we've got. Instead of something that could tickle the fancy of the younger fans and look more like mixed martial arts and be cool young guys kicking a shit out of each other with good music and, nice production, we get fucking midgets and cosplayers fucking jacking off and tickling each other's taint because they think they're all fucking funny. And that's what wrestling is now. And that's the idea that people are going to have of it for the next 10 or 15 years. So it's pretty much too late to do anything about it. Thanks for bringing that up and bringing me down there, Brian.